The biggest twist yet in the race to the White House. U.S. President Joe Biden has finally called it quits as the Democratic contestant. He won't stand for re-election later this year, and he has named his Vice President Kamala Harris to lead the Democratic Party's ticket against Donald Trump. And this comes after weeks of pressure from trusted lieutenants, former presidents, potential donors, Democrat lawmakers and senators, and also widespread public opinion in the United States of America. The 81-year-old president finally decided on Sunday morning to pass the torch, as many called it. President Biden tweeted a note addressed to my fellow Americans, saying he believed it to be in the best interests of the party and the country to stand down and focus on his duties as the president. He also said that he would be addressing the nation later this week. Minutes later, another message, this one addressed to my fellow Democrats, quote unquote, and I'm quoting here, full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of our party this year. Biden recalled that picking Kamala Harris as vice president in 2020 was his first decision as party nominee. Over the last few weeks, Vice President Kamala Harris has acted as the White House's first line of defense, particularly after Biden's faltering performance in the first presidential debate against Donald Trump. 59-year-old Harris is the first woman, first black person, and first person of South Asian descent to serve as the U.S. Vice President. Harris said she intends to earn and win the nomination and do everything in her power to unite the country to defeat Donald Trump. The Vice President and other Democratic Party leaders have expressed strong praise for the President for what they called his extraordinary leadership, dedicated service. Kamala Harris has already got endorsement from former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton as well, besides 79 of Democrat leaders as per a YouGov poll. But there's no clear support from former U.S. President Barack Obama, indicating a hesitation among several Democrats in accepting Harris as the party's White House nominee. Well, Obama only tweeted that Democrats will name an outstanding nominee and did not mention Harris. It promises to be a long road ahead for the Democratic Party as it heads into its national convention on the 19th of August. And for more on this, we're now being joined by our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, and she's joining us live from New York. Welcome to the show, Susan. Completely unprecedented that what we're witnessing today in the United States of America. Biden has announced that he's dropping out of the race and has endorsed Kamala Harris as the party's nominee. Tell us, how will things change moving forward, especially the campaigning for the party, and how will it impact the Democratic National Convention, which is taking place in just a few days from now?
So while President Biden has endorsed his Vice President Kamala Harris, it's still not clear that she will ultimately be the nominee, considering the fact that on the one hand, support is pouring in for her, even from major donors. One donor who has spent almost $40 million for Democrats is saying that let's all back Kamala Harris, let's all unite behind her. But then you have others like former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who are silent on whether or not they would endorse Kamala Harris or not. They're looking, and former President Obama, they're saying that an open primary may be the best option, Obama being the most recent saying it today, but we heard from those others before last week. And these, according to the reports that we were getting, which seem to have all been accurate now that we know President Biden resigned on Sunday as anticipated, these were the people that were pressuring him out. So what will change in the next few days is, first of all, the Democrats, those that support Harris, we're going to hear a lot the word excitement. They want to use this word because one of the reasons that the Democratic Party wasn't doing so well was because voters just don't have enthusiasm for this year's election. So they're going to say the vibes are good. It's going to be exciting. We may have the first woman president moving forward. Is that going to work? Well, we'll have to wait and see. And then there is the issue of everyone rallying around Harris. Kathy Hochul was one of the latest New York governor here that endorsed Harris. Gavin Newsom, a big name, a governor in California, endorsed Harris. But, you know, as I mentioned, things are moving so fast. We don't know whether or not she'll actually be the nominee. And this is not exactly the best place for the Trump camp to be, although they're enjoying this chaos. But remember, right now, they don't know who they're running against. Is J.D. Vance going to debate Kamala Harris? Or is Donald Trump going to debate Kamala Harris? Or is it going to be someone else? So we're going to be hearing a lot of news developing in the next few days.
Right, Susan, absolutely. These are extremely fast and moving developments that we are witnessing right now, with the DNC slated to hold a convention later in the next few days. Like you mentioned, that the senior Democrats have obviously lauded President Biden for his decision and called him extraordinary. But there is a lack of Kamala Harris's a name in the tweets, in the letters that they've taken out, especially with Barack Obama also not mentioning Kamala Harris as the party's nominee.
Yeah, you know, it's Barack Obama, it's Nancy Pelosi, it's Chuck Schumer, it's Hakeem Jeffries, which were the names that we were hearing that were saying Joe Biden should step aside. So, you know, if you're going to go with the line that there is a ruling class in Washington that makes most of the decisions, well, these are the people that we're talking about. So, you know, how Kamala is going to navigate this, whether or not they're waiting to see if they should immediately endorse her. Remember, we still don't know why Joe Biden exited the race. He said if I had a serious illness, I would exit. He said if God Almighty comes down and tells me, I will exit. He also alluded to the fact that if pollsters told him that he wasn't able to win, he'll exit. So the fact that we don't know why Joe Biden has exited puts these politicians in a very serious and concerning position as well for their credibility. If Joe Biden comes out and says, I exited because I didn't think I was going to win, what kind of message does that send to voters? So that's not how it works. That's not how democracy works. Just because you thought you were going to win, you can't just exit the race halftime when 14, 15 million Americans voted for you in the primaries. So these individuals, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Barack Obama, they may be waiting to have an open primary, perhaps, so it doesn't appear that all of a sudden they're making this switch to Kamala, right off the bat. So that may be one situation. Another situation may be that they just don't think Harris is going to win.
Right, Susan, we have to talk about what changed, because the pressure was perhaps growing on Biden after his shaky and uneven performance at the U.S. presidential debate a few days ago, and especially with senior Democrats like Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi expressing their concerns to Biden in private about his candidacy, and Biden facing Trump in the upcoming elections, which is something of the past now. One perhaps has to wonder when the pressure would become so great that Biden actually had to listen to his party. So, because just on July 19th, Biden clearly said that he is in the race and he will start his campaigning as soon as he is out of the COVID-19 quarantine. So, what exactly changed in a span of just 48 hours?
You say 48 hours? He has a tweet 22 hours ago, maybe 24 hours ago by now, that said, I am going to win the elections. Staffers that the White House they're leaking information saying that Biden put out that tweet at 1:46 p.m. They're saying they learned that Biden wanted to exit the race a minute before at 1:45 p.m. Now, if that's true, something appeared to happen between around 10 a.m. here on Sunday and 1:46 p.m. that the Biden family and Biden himself possibly made this decision. And the reason I say about 10 a.m. is because his campaign individual person, spokesperson, was on live television Sunday morning saying that everything is fine. This is the candidate for the Democrat Party. No more arguments. And another case for concern right now is Biden tweeted this letter on X from Joe Biden's account, not the official POTUS account. It doesn't have a seal, We didn't even get a picture of him sort of signing it. And then we hear that he's going to make an announcement later on in the week. You know, it raises the question, and what situation is the president in right now? And the big question, we can't forget to talk about this. I know J.D. Vance has talked about it. Speaker Johnson is talking about it now. If he's not fit to be the candidate, or if he thinks he's not, is he fit to lead the country for the next 5 months?
Right, Susan, absolutely. The point of contention wasn't if Biden was up for the race, but if Biden could perhaps win against Donald Trump. Stay with us. We'll, of course, be decoding all of this with you on the show right now.